The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com
We were on the break!
with Ambar Garcia, Brian Broaddus, Patrick Walker, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Thursday, September 14th, 2023, season 19, episode number 31. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. Got the full crew back with us today. And today we will be talking about the New York Jet offense versus the Cowboys defense. Throughout the course of the show, we hope to get some questions in here. We haven't had questions from fans in a while, so you guys can hit us up on our text line. 817-290-3298 is the number. You can also call us if you want to talk to us. 888-855-2297. We'll get some phone calls throughout the show, hopefully, and hopefully hear from you guys about this upcoming matchup, Cowboys versus Jets. Let's jump in, and let's start with an injury update. Yesterday on the injury report, Brandon Cooks pops up, something I don't know that I was expecting. I don't know how many were expecting that, but tell us what's going on with Brandon Cooks and the other guys who have already been on the injury report over the last week.
Definitely was unexpected when it comes to Brandon Cooks. No injury reported from him on Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. Pops up on the injury report on Wednesday with what's described as a knee injury. Broaddus did some research as well. He noticed that it was knee soreness.
Knee soreness is what they're calling it, yeah.
I talked to Brandon in the locker room on yesterday, and he said, quote unquote, I feel good. He did defer to Mike McCarthy as far as injury prognosis and availability, which just makes sense because, you know, there might be some gamesmanship in any of that nature. But he says he feels good. Cowboys are going to keep him in the rehab group today because if it is knee soreness, obviously you want to rest that. Tyler Smith, he had a workout on yesterday. Mike McCarthy was impressed with that. He also said that Tyler Smith is pushing to play. So that gives me indication that if this were, you know, a playoff berth or playoff season or something like that, Tyler could play. Cowboys are just being cautious because it's a long season. He'll be with the rehab group today as well. Donovan Wilson had a workout yesterday, what Mike McCarthy called, quote unquote, a big workout. He said Dono did more yesterday than I expected, and that means Donovan Wilson might actually get some burn in practice today, which goes with what Mike said yesterday as far as Dono being slightly ahead of Tyler in his recovery. So I expect to see Dono, you know, maybe limited in practice today, but that's definitely an upgrade over what he's been to this point. So looks like Donovan Wilson definitely has a good shot at playing against the Jets. Tyler Smith, we're still feeling that out. Brandon Cooks, if it's just knee soreness as indicated, then you rest it and he should be a go, but we'll see how the week rolls out.
When you talk about that knee, Brian, from what you were hearing, is it soreness that came from something that happened in the game, or is it just wear?
Yeah, it's in the game.
Okay, so it was something.
Yeah, he got banged. He got banged up
Okay.
a little bit in the game. Yeah.
Yeah, with older players, you just kind of worry, like, is it just soreness just because of use?
Oh, no,
That can be something that
McCarthy
worries you.
said on yesterday that it did happen in the game.
Okay.
But the good news is that he was able to finish the game. So he didn't miss any snaps due to the injury. So that's a good sign as far as where he is with that knee.
When he has problems, it's the soft tissue injury stuff. That's
those
something.
fast guys, yeah.
That's something that's been with him throughout his career.
Okay. Talking about, did you mention Jordan Lewis there?
Jordan Lewis. Okay, so Jordan Lewis was a healthy scratch on last week, which was a bit of a surprise given, you know, my conversation with Jordan and Mike McCarthy's press conferences talking about how Jordan was ahead of the curve. I spoke with Jordan Lewis on yesterday just to confirm that it was indeed a healthy scratch, and he said it absolutely was. And it was exactly what I kind of speculated on Twitter when I said maybe the Cowboys want to see him in practice for another week. That's basically exactly what Jordan told me in the locker room yesterday. He said the coaches came to him and said, you know what, you're ready, but we want to see you in practice ramp up a little bit more this week. So the strong expectation is that Jordan Lewis will be on the field.
Gotta double check what you say from now on.
I'm telling you what I'm told. So Jordan Lewis, based on what he's telling me, he's 100% confident that he'll be on the field against the Jets. Obviously, it's coach's decision, but if you take what Mike McCarthy just said this morning about Jordan Lewis, it seems to be they're in lockstep right now. So
But you know, I mean, I love what you guys are saying here. You can only dress 48 of these cats.
I was just about to say that.
You know, and all of a sudden now it's and maybe there is a little bit of a sense of urgency from guys like Donovan Wilson and others when you start to see the success the defense has with backup players in there. And if you're a coach, you have to be very mindful of, okay, do I want to take Marquise Bell out of this lineup right now? Do I want to take Wanye Thomas out of this lineup right now? And, that's where we got into a little bit about with Deuce Vaughn. And how many plays is Deuce Vaughn giving you a game to be able to carry that extra running back there? Do you need a defensive player? And nothing against Deuce Vaughn, but there are going to be some healthy scratches along the way. But it'll be interesting to see, with Dan Quinn and the guys that he fights for, the guys that Bones Fossil fights for. But you can only dress so many of these guys. And then when they start coming back in the lineup, then all of a sudden you're looking at a situation where some other guys are not going to be able to dress. And I think it sounds real simple to say, pull them in, plug them in, pull them out kind of a thing, but it really doesn't work all that easily, especially when you have guys that are playing pretty well.
I even wonder what's the role for a guy like Jordan Lewis, particularly on a week like this where my suspicion is that the Jets will go into this game thinking we want to run. We want to run a lot. And it makes me wonder if Dallas is going to be in a situation where defensively they want to go heavy more. And maybe they want to have an extra defensive lineman, an extra linebacker, an extra safety, more so than having that third cornerback on the field because of the running game that the Jets pose, the problems that running game can pose. It makes me wonder, what would be his role this week as a fourth cornerback, presumably, in this rotation right now.
Where my mind goes with that is an excellent point that Broadus brought up last week when it came to Jordan Lewis is the package against the Saints where it was Jordan Lewis spying Alvin Kamara. So when you look at the skill set of a guy like Breece Hall who can be explosive out of the backfield, Dalvin Cook who can be an explosive receiver out of the backfield as well, Jordan Lewis has shown that he can spy those guys effectively. So maybe that's a potential role for him in a game like this.
Yeah, and I was going to say, this kind of has been his story in his career where something else happens and he's kind of left out in a way, but yet he finds a way to be back in the group. So I think at the end of the day, the coaches know Dan Quinn has kept him here for a reason. He knows the talent that he has. He will be used this season. And I trust the decision that they make in whatever time or week they decide to go ahead and plug him in, because you can't have too many of those guys. And you were talking about who are you going to dress, who are you going to sit.
Right.
It does sound simple, but it is a problem to a good problem to have, a great problem to have. So, and it's one of those scenarios that we haven't always had that in past previous years, where we're sitting here like, man, you're sitting out a really talented player. Who else are you going to play in? You have so many weapons, so it's something super exciting.
I think it goes to the credit to the defensive coaches and the way that I've always felt like that if you give these defensive coaches players, they will figure out how to play 8 to 10 plays with a guy. They'll figure out okay, this guy can come in and help us here. Where, as you mentioned in the past, maybe it was a little bit more focused on, okay, these are 13, 14 guys that we're going to play and everybody else. But what you do is you learn that guys like Marquise Bell and others and Wanye Thomas and those guys can play because they play 3 preseason games. And then you watch them in practice. And then all of a sudden that carries over to the game. So but these defensive coaches do a heck of a job of getting guys involved. And then it makes you like to say, well, how do you take that guy off? Seriously, Bell is a guy on the field making tackles, big body guy. To Derek's point, and we'll get into the Jets and what they're probably going to try and do to you come Sunday. But you give me as many big body guys on the field that I can handle. If teams are going to try and spread you out and play a lot of wide receivers, then this is where all of a sudden Jordan Lewis finds a role back into the game.
Right. And I think that's the interesting part here is I think every week
mix and match
on the defense. There are going to be some talented guys who are going to be inactive. Every single week. Because they've got so much talent on this defense that it's going to be a matter of, and it probably will give you a little indication as to what they're thinking schematically on what they think the other team's going to try to do to them and where they think they want to be heavier or lighter, depending on who they're playing.
And the cool thing that I really appreciate about this coaching staff is that they've shown not to glue themselves to a player, not to get too attached. They're not afraid to switch someone out, sit someone out. The only exception that really comes to mind, I would say Kelvin Joseph, but they had to. They didn't really have other options. But then Terrence Steele, that's the only other case that comes to mind to where they stuck with him and they were right. Turns out to be that they were right. So it's something that, again, back in like Jason Garrett's era, when I first started working here, I never saw that. They would stick to one guy and just ride the whole season with that person. This coaching staff just gives guys opportunities.
It was always that next man up thing. It was like, when we need you, be ready kind of a thing. Instead of using everybody on your bench, you know, that administration was more locked into, okay, these are our guys. These are 22 guys, and player 23 on does not really matter here.
I think when it comes to how you're going to figure out that 48, I think it might be a situation where Noah Igbenogany, who had an explosive debut for the Cowboys with that special teams touchdown, and I had a great conversation with him. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you go to DallasCowboys.com and check that out. This might be a situation where he finds himself inactive to bring Jordan Lewis in. And then, because you want to, if Donald is in fact going to play, you still have to have that depth just in case, right? So Marquise Bell, Wanye Thomas, those are also going to be special teams guys who, knock on wood, if they have to come in defensively, they can come in and be available. But I think this could be a situation where when you're trying to figure out numbers game, Igbenogany, although the explosive game in week 1, and it would not be a knock to his talent if he were inactive in week 2, it would just simply be trying to figure out the scheme for this particular week and who needs to sit, who needs to play based upon the personnel that the other team is presenting.
They already dress for specialists if you count C.J. Goodwin, because he really doesn't play any defensive snaps for you. So now that's an extra guy that you have to account for, because he really is a specialist in that way. So it's a little bit of board gymnastics to try and figure out, but a lot of it has to do with what you're facing scheme-wise.
Yep. All right, we're going to take our first break. We will come back and jump into Jets offense versus Cowboys defense. Brian has the breakdown. We'll be back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Cowboys fans, after that move, we've just coined the term Rowdy Replay. Let's roll back the tape.
Okay, there's our mascot Rowdy cheering on the boys. And now he's on his phone, on his Bank of America mobile banking app?
Staying on top of his finances with his virtual financial assistant, Erica.
Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive. Cowboys fans just can't stop banking. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/can't-stop-banking.
Erica is only available in the English language. You must download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. Member FDIC.
Welcome back into Dear Doctor, the show where I answer life's questions with an ice-cold can of Dr. Pepper. Sheila, let's hear from our next caller, would you?
Dear Doctor, my friend supported me during a tough time. But what's the right gift that says, thanks for being a shoulder to cry on?
Okay, this one's easy. I say give her a delicious Dr. Pepper. Nothing says, thanks, girl, better than a one-of-a-kind soda. Yes, any Dr. Pepper flavor will do. Now, just a reminder that I don't need to be a real doctor to know that Dr. Pepper is the one you deserve.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Back to the break.
Okay, let's see. Hey, Rally Days presented by SeatGeek. It gives fans, NFL fans, an experience of a lifetime the day prior to the Dallas Cowboys home games. On September 16th, enjoy activities at Miller Lite House, get a behind-the-scenes tour of AT&T Stadium and more. Visit AT&TStadium.com/rallydays for more information and to get your tickets today.
Welcome back. Second segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. Brian, let's dive in. Jets offense versus Cowboys defense. Go.
Okay, let me finish this text real quick, and got that done. All right, here we go. With the Jets, this is where when you start to watch the tape, I don't know if the plan versus the Bills was to play with 12 and 13 personnel in this game, at the time that Aaron Rodgers was in there. But as the game wore on, that's what they did when Zach Wilson came into the game. Mm-hmm. So it was initially, it's only 4 plays. You really didn't really figure things out for what they were going to do with Rodgers, what the plan was going to be. But when Zach Wilson came in the game, you saw more tight ends in the game. 12, 13 personnel, 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends. They're going to load up on the edges with multiple blockers. They appear to they run the ball better when they get in these personnel groups, that 12 and 13 personnel group. They'll use this in a form to help also with pass protection. So they'll keep guys in. I think this is a game where you're going to see them trying to deal the Cowboys in with spacing more than just maybe some one-on-one blocking. When you put tight ends in there, if you put a tight end in a wing, what does that do? It takes a man and removes him two gaps. So sometimes you can create spacing to help your blockers not have to deal with a pass rush that's going to come off the edge. But look for them to try and help them use that to help them also in that running game. Zach Wilson, I mentioned, he's going to be your starter. This is his 3rd season. He still doesn't look super comfortable as a player. You could really see some hit and miss in him in his game. Accuracy will come and go. Receivers will bail him out at times. I feel there are plays where he's just made up his mind where he's going to go with the football. And pre-snap, he's just like, okay, I'm just going to throw it here and then hope for the best. I don't think he's really a natural player for the position right now. There's kind of some throw the ball and hope for the best. I'm not sure there's some real progression as far as reading what you're going to do defensively to him, or he could see that. So maybe with Dan Quinn, you try and fool him a little bit with some alignment and then rotate some ways, and he has a tendency not to see everybody on the field. So it might be a way to kind of take advantage of him. The offensive line, in my opinion, is a better run-blocking unit than they are a pass-blocking unit at this point. They'll pull, they'll trap to get blocks, crack toss, where you take the wide receiver inside, you pull guys to the edge is a good play for them. They double team at the point of attack, but they'll struggle at times to get second-level blocks. When center Connor McGovern had a real trouble getting to the second level, and when he didn't do that, the play resulted into a tackle for loss there. Twist stunts by the Bills were a problem for them, especially on the left side of their offensive line. That's Laken Tomlinson and Dwayne Brown. They didn't pass the stunts well enough, resulted in some pressures over on that side. Cowboys like to move the front, like to kind of try and mess with your blocking schemes a little bit, mess with you with the way that they rush their guys. When rushing Mekhi Becton, the tackle, you just need to keep pushing the edge on him. He's not, when rushers stop with him, he then has a chance to recover. You just need to keep pushing on him, and it'll put him in a poor blocking spot there. Vera Tucker, the guard, he'll struggle with power, so you can knock him back as well. So they've got some issues with their offensive line. Like I said, I think they're a little bit better run-blocking group than they are a passing group. Running backs, Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook will be a problem. Both have shown the ability to make the first man miss in order to create space. I've seen tacklers bounce off them and attempt to wrap them up. They're powerful running styles. Hall is outstanding reading the blocks and then allowing them to develop and then getting through the hole. That's something that, when he sees that, all of a sudden you see it kind of develop, and then he finds it and then he goes. And he's a hard guy to kind of bring down in that. There's just no hesitation in his game. Both backs will play in the backfield at the same time. They'll set up plays off that. Nathaniel Hackett is not afraid to run screens with either one of these guys. That goes to your point about maybe with Jordan Lewis being in this game, but he'll put him in the backfield. He'll run one way, throw the screen back, or he'll throw a screen or a swing to the other one. But he's trying to do some things to create some issues with him with formations. Both catch the ball well. Both can make plays on the ball with it in their hands. At wide receiver, Garrett Wilson, he's got the potential to be one of the best receivers in the league. He became a full-time starter like in week 13 of his rookie season. he's become their go-to guy. He's had 5 receptions, 1 touchdown, 3 first downs of his 5 receptions were first down. His body control, his balance is impressive. He's a dynamic playmaker in every sense of the word. You could play him inside, you could play him outside. You get productive plays for him as you're going along there. There's a real looseness to his game and the way he moves. When you watch him, there's not any tightness to him. He's one of those guys he kind of flows, and when he's running routes, and you have to be careful where he'll send you one way with a little move and then get back the other way and create that separation. So when you feel like you got him covered, he finds ways to come up with the ball. So I think he would have really, really benefited from Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. I think Rodgers would have had a great combination together, but that's not the case anymore. The next guy you kind of need to worry about is Allen Lazard. We all know Allen Lazard from the days of when he was with the Packers. Mm-hmm. He's got this sizable catch radius due to his length. So he's one of these real long guys, and he's always kind of making plays. But he can win 50-50 balls. 2 of his 4 receptions resulted in first downs against the Bills as well. So those are the guys that you kind of need to worry about when you focus in on what the Jets are trying to do. I think their quarterback could be fooled in some things. Maybe some coverage things could kind of make him feel like he's got the right read, but then you do something different and it causes him to turn over the ball. So I think that's a good thing that he's playing in the game and not Aaron Rodgers, to be honest with you.
100%. And in this morning's drop of the Science Lab, week 2, I focused in on Zach Wilson, and I talked about it, briefly in the lab coat this past Tuesday, and how he performs poorly under duress. 1 out of every 4 of his throws are bad throws when you pressure him. 40% of the playbook in Zach Wilson's career has been play action. That goes to what Brian is saying. You have to eliminate and at least try to contain Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook. When it comes to that offensive line, we talk about Brandon Cooks dealing with a little bit of an injury. Cowboys dealing with some injuries as well. Dwayne Brown, Mekhi Becton both popped up on the Jets injury report yesterday with a shoulder and a knee injury, respectively. So those guys aren't healthy either, and those guys being less than 100% already struggling against the pass rush for a Buffalo Bills team, and then now you're going up against a much better pass rush in the Cowboys. Name of the game is to stop the run, beat up on those guys in the trenches, and really make Zach Wilson, turn him into Sam Darnold a la 2019 against the Patriots. Have him out there seeing ghosts, because he is a young guy going against a veteran defensive coordinator, going against veteran impact guys on defense. You can have him out there seeing apparitions, thinking, okay, well, this is the read, this is the coverage. And because he does not progress well, he doesn't go through his progressions well, that's why he is so poor under duress, because he's already a guy who doesn't read his second and third check down well. So if you force him into those, you're going to force him to give that ball away, and then comes the takeaway game. So
let's talk about, let's dive into this a little bit. I want to talk specifically about those running backs for a second. Yeah. Breece Hall, last week he was the better of the 2. Yeah. He had 10 carries, 127 yards.
He had a long run. One of them was a very long run. Yeah.
Dalvin Cook had 13 carries for 33 yards. Not as much production, but they gave him a little bit more. Do you think that part of the split there is about the fact that they're easing Breece Hall back from the season-ending injury a year ago, as opposed to this week where maybe they ramp him up a little bit more? Because Breece Hall really scares me, because not only is he a good running back, he has that speed that he can go. He can go the distance on any particular play. Do you think he'll get more opportunities this week against the Cowboys than maybe they gave him last week?
I feel like that they're going to continue to play with both backs. I feel like that the numbers, what I saw with the way that they ran the football and with Dalvin Cook is, and we remember Dalvin Cook last year in the game in Minnesota. It was an absolute disaster for the Vikings offense. But Dalvin Cook, I think, averaged almost 7 yards a carry last time against the Cowboys run. And Dalvin Cook scares me because there's that physical side. He's one of those guys that you hand him the ball, he hits you. He hits you again. He seems to kind of get better as that goes on. So I don't see with the situation with Hall, as good as Hall was last year until he hurt his knee. I just feel like that they're committed to playing 2 guys, because they could throw the ball to either. And this is the thing that this is going to help Zach Wilson, in my opinion. The fact of just saying, okay, let's split the load between, because they're going to have to run the football in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see like it in this saying that, okay, we're going to load up with Breece Hall here. I think it's going to be like Breece, maybe it's 2-3 plays, and then it's Dalvin Cook 2-3 plays, and then it's back to, I think they're going to try and just keep the snap count that way, because if they go into the season now with Zach Wilson, and it is going to be his team the whole way, they're going to just completely destroy Breece Hall by week 7 if they just, So I think the carries are still going to even when the Jets leave here, I think you'll see the carries balance, because you just don't want to wear out Breece Hall, to the point where he's not any good in week 10 or week 11 for you as well.
They didn't sign Dalvin Cook to not utilize Dalvin Cook. And obviously that would have been the free agency conversation. Dalvin Cook wants to play, and the conversation would have been, we're going to play. It's going to be more of a 2-back system, which for the most part you've seen the NFL kind of going to nowadays, more than that true bell cow back. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard for the past few seasons has been that for the Cowboys. So I think that's what, to Brian's point, I think that's what the Jets are looking to build over the course of this season. So I think it'll be a pretty even split for the most part. Breece Hall was more explosive in the touches he got. Last week, Dalvin Cook got, I think, 10 plus more reps. But you'll still see it hover around that 50-50 mark as far as rep count is concerned.
When you go back to last week's game against the Giants, what did you guys specifically see in the running game in that first series that the Giants had when they had so much success on the ground? What did you see in that drive that maybe they were having success with, that maybe Dallas is going to have to figure out how to shore up?
Yeah, if you go back and really watch, like guys like Clark and others were having problems, they were catching blocks. And the Giants did a really good job of coming off the ball and getting into them, and then Dallas not playing off those blocks. So you got guys.
So the linebackers,
I thought there was a couple times with Clark. Well, Clark overran one that ended up being a big, but the quarterback runs hurt them more. With when you looked at what Saquon Barkley was, it was a 5-yard carry, 5. That kind of, the quarterback runs were the ones to me that were pretty alarming. But when you looked at what with Barkley when he carried the ball, to me that was when Dallas really struggled of not the disengage. When Dallas is bad against the run, their guys get caught and then turned. And now it creates these gaps, and then you get and then all of a sudden linemen are up on second level, and that's the problem we were talking about with the Jets a little bit here. Their center wasn't as good, but when they with their combinations, the way they blocked, they were able to get some hats on hats, and then create space, and that's what the Giants were able to do in that early in that game is the double team blocks, and then getting somebody to the second level, and then being able to attack where they blocked. There was a couple of times there where I felt like the Giants could have really gashed the Cowboys pretty well. There was a tackle, I forgot one of the safeties who came up and tackled Barkley on a play that could have been just huge.
I think that was Wanye.
Wanye?
I think it was Wanye. Might have been.
I thought it was one. I wasn't sure if it was him or Kurtz, but I just remember it just hitting so fast, and then having to get over there and make the tackle. But when Dallas is bad, they catch blocks. They can't just go toe to toe. They're kind of built to play more on the move, with the exception of your two inside guys. Right. People think that if you just put Mozzie and Hankins in there together, that it cures running game stuff. It really doesn't always work that way. What do teams do when they play against Vita Vea and others? They run the ball to the outside. They run the edge. Nobody. I mean, you don't be stupid enough to sit there and think you're going to run.
Wall.
Yeah, I mean, if your center can't hold up against Hankins, or your center can't hold up against Mozzie Smith or your guards can't hold up, you're not going to run the ball inside. I mean, having those big body guys inside, great. But what do? Teams become creative with the way they run the ball. It's more, especially with the Jets, it's down block, loop guys around, trap guys. If you get spacing in there, guy gets upfield, you trap him, ball goes behind him. This isn't like 1958 anymore where you just hand the ball inside and just run. So having Mozzie and Hankins in there at the same time, yeah, good. But it's about It's also about having Tank play well. It's about Van Der Esch playing well. It's about Clark playing well. It's about one of those safeties stepping up and playing well. You can't let guys block you if you want to be good in the running game. And that's when the Cowboys are bad at it, they don't get off blocks well enough.
I feel like the New York Jets are going to look at that film against that the Cowboys did against the New York Giants, and some of those scripted plays they're probably going to borrow as far as quarterback mobility, because you look at the runs that Jones was kind of rattling off against the Cowboys. Those were very decisive runs. Those weren't checkdowns and take off. Those were called plays. And then you go against a guy like Zach Wilson, who is just not good in the passing game, particularly under duress. But when he takes off and runs, he averages 9 yards a game. So I think the Jets are going to test the Cowboys and try to put them on their heels with that first, mixing in a healthy dose of Breece and Cook, I should say. But if you can neutralize that, and if you're the Cowboys, you're looking at that versus Giants film, and you're saying, well, what went wrong when Daniel Jones went off? How did we get stuck on? What block did we get stuck on? And then that way you can improve. So if the Jets try to deploy that, you have an answer for it.
They would. If I'm the Jets, I would rather die in the running game than die throwing the ball.
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna. At least
You're not gonna tee off on my quarterback.
I'm not gonna let you tee off my quarterback. This is the only one I've really got left.
Yep.
I'm not gonna let you. The one strength the Cowboys has is cover and rush.
Right.
The one thing they're still trying to prove is they could shut people down from running the football.
And Mike McCarthy talked about that this morning in his press conference. He said, we better be comfortable with that, stopping the run and doing it over and over and over again, because every team that they play is probably going to come in with the same game plan, run the ball.
Yeah.
And this is a perfect game to use the scoreboard as the 11th defender. Right, because if the Jets are going to run. Okay, well, be it defensive touchdown and or special teams touchdown and or the offense getting off to a fast start and finding pay dirt. If you start to run up the score a little bit and it becomes a 2-possession game,
you take them out of it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now they can't run the ball.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take our final break. We'll come back, and I got more questions for these guys on the matchup, Cowboys defense versus Jets offense. We'll be back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Don't put off getting your oil change, Dallas. Take 5 Oil Change, a proud partner of the Cowboys, is faster than you think. There's no appointment needed and no waiting room. Yep, you heard that correctly. Take 5 is so fast, you don't even have to get out of your car. You can take advantage of Take 5's fast, friendly, and simple service at any of their locations across the Dallas area. And remember, at Take 5, you stay in your car because they're faster than you think. Take 5, the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code COWBOYSVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code COWBOYSVIP.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Back to the break.
Head to the Pro Shop at Arlington Parks Mall in Arlington, Texas on Saturday, September 23rd between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. for Cowboys collections on tour. See rare team archives, customized headwear, and grab a gift with a purchase and enter for a chance to win a giveaway. Stay tuned for more tour stops coming throughout the season. Probably should have read that before I read that. How about that? But go see that. That's a tour. That's the archive stuff, right?
Yeah, it's part of the tour.
That's great. Yeah. Go
really
check that out. That's
really
cool.
All right, here we go. Final segment of the break. Let's talk Cowboys defense versus Jets offense. Give me an assessment on Mozzie Smith this last game. You mentioned him in the last segment, Brian. How do you think he played this last game and whatever snaps he actually got?
You know what? I thought Mozzie Smith was better than what he'd shown in the preseason, and I feel like that he's starting to understand what his responsibility is. He understands that he's not playing against Purdue or Indiana or Michigan State over there. He's playing in NFL games, and if you don't play with quickness and you don't get off the ball, then you're going to get blocked. These linemen are good enough to be able to hook you, to turn you. They'll play with leverage. But he's starting to understand. There are times where when he has problems, he doesn't get off the ball quick enough. You see everybody else go, and especially
it was apparent in one play specifically.
Yeah, well, it was. Yeah, but it was better than what it like. There were plays in the preseason where it was down after down after down, where you're watching, and it's especially noticeable when you play next to Osa, who is like standing in their backfield by the time you're going to come off the ball there. So he's got to realize movement and initial quickness is more important to him than power. And the minute he figures out that when he gets off the ball, teams will have trouble blocking him because of his size and power. But it was better. It was better. And I'm not shilling for the kid or shilling for the scouting department, but you can honestly see there was a little bit better getting off the ball. Is that was shilling? Shilling?
What are you saying? Like a shield?
Well, no, just kind of like covering. I'm covering for him. Yeah, I'm covering for him.
Covering.
Yeah.
So like a shield.
Yeah, shielding for him. Yeah,
You're shielding.
I'm covering for him. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know what you were saying, but got it. Thank you. Sorry.
Proceed. So I guess from that standpoint, and you mentioned in that last segment, I think that we did see during training camp, there were times when the Cowboys did use both Mozzie and Hankins together. And I know what you're saying. Like, it doesn't solve everything putting them out there together.
Yeah.
It does make me wonder, though, if we might see that more from the standpoint of, as you said before, one of the big issues there in that first drive was the linebackers were getting offensive linemen in their laps. They couldn't get off the blocks. If you've got those two guys up front, does that also now make them tie up those offensive linemen to where those linebackers can flow to the ball if they are deciding to go to the outside?
Yeah, but the thing about it is those two guys in front have to hold those. I mean, to me, if you stand there and just take a block, and guys will realize, like, okay, we're in position, and then they'll just go ahead and hit and then go. They'll just and it's not like a hand check or something like that, but you just go hip to hip and then bounce it and then go, knowing that, okay, this guy's not going to do anything. Like, if you try and double team, like, say, like Osa, he's going to find a way to attack he's going to attack a shoulder, or he's going to get through by the time you get, or make it difficult for you to double team. These bigger guys, they kind of stand up and take on, but then people realize, like, okay, they're not going to do anything other than just stand there, and then we'll take the guard and go ahead and go up.
Yeah.
So you have to be, just if you're gonna take on double teams, make sure you're pushing to get on the other side of the line of scrimmage, because if you just stand straight up, the ball's still going to probably go to the outside.
Right.
Those linebackers are still going to run, to try and get to the ball. So to me, it's more about, take on blocks, but take on blocks on the other side of the line of scrimmage. Don't take on blocks 2 yards on your side of the line of scrimmage.
When you look at the tight ends from last week, we all talked about yesterday. They had some issues there catching the ball. What did you evaluate from the standpoint of their ability to block?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I mean, in the post Jason Witten and now post Dalton Schultz era, the question was, with these young guys, not could they make plays? We saw them make plays with the ball as pass catchers last year. The question was, can they upgrade the blocking? Hendershot, as an undrafted guy, he came in, wasn't the best blocker in college, but he started to make some strides, and you see that in a game like on Sunday against the Giants. Jake Ferguson was a better blocker last year, especially coming out of school, but he even upgraded over here. So while we can rightfully say we need those guys to start catching the ball. And Jake Ferguson didn't log any drops last year, so I'm just going to go milli vanilli and blame it on the rain for Jake Ferguson. Hendershot has dropped some balls, so he needs to show consistency in his pass catching. But when it comes to blocking, I think it was just A+ from those two guys.
That's a Grammy Award-winning group, by the way. That Milli Vanilli.
Oh yeah.
Okay. My turn to talk now? Okay, let me speak. I forgot I had a voice, but no, I'm just kidding. Everything that you just said, Patrick, is well said. You talk about Luke Schoonmaker, and you were trying to figure out, or we talked about his ability to block. That was one of his selling points for the draft. He got drafted for that. And because you had questions about can these tight ends block, and that was the one thing that you were still missing in that group and in the offense, especially when you talk about injuries happening in the O-line. You need some extra help that can come in and block for you. So kudos to them. They're done a great job in, I believe, such a short amount of time. I thought it would take longer for us to start seeing that part of the game progress throughout the season. They were able to present that right away in week 1, and to the point where you're not needing to force or hurry a guy like Luke Schoonmaker to get in the game to hopefully help you balance out the game as far as like come in and help you with the blocking. So you're not needing to force that aspect now that these guys are showing the improvement in that area of the game. So that's really good for them.
It'll be a challenge this week to block the guys that the Jets have, though. The John Franklin Myers is a good player. We talked about Carl Lawson potentially playing in this game. They play that. I mentioned they play with that spacing with their what they call the wide 9, with the wide guys. So it'll be a little bit more of a challenge for the guys to block, because I feel like there's a little bit better quality of some of the defensive ends. These guys play the run really, really well.
Is there any concern you guys have for the Dallas defense getting gashed in the run game because they are so eager to get after the quarterback, especially in a game like this where that quarterback does not do well with pressure?
I think they've shown more discipline in that area, as far as knowing when to pin their ears back and when to drop gears and be able to drop back and say, okay, well, off the snap, I'm on full go, but recognize this is now a run play to the edge, drop, and then covering the flat. I think they've done an exceptional job over the past couple of years as they progress more and more in Dan Quinn's system, and being able to go from top gear and dropping down a couple gears in real time. So, when you talk about talent like Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook, they're going to get their plays. The question is, can the Cowboys limit the number of those big plays that happen and bottle cap the size? So you don't want an 80+ yard from Breece Hall, because that can be a game changer depending on the situation. But I've seen those guys, the Cowboys defense, in real time, especially guys like Sam Williams, who last year had only one gear: go, eat. Yeah. But this year, he's already making progress and improving his run defense. And a part of that improvement is knowing when to recognize that, hey, I thought this was a pass play pre-snap, but I recognized in real time this is now a run, and he'll drop down a couple gears. So kudos to those guys. So I'm not as worried about it as I was in, say, 2021 or 2020 specifically.
Well, in the second segment, I think, if I remember correctly, you mentioned something about Wilson averaging about 9 yards per run.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And Brian, you were talking, and you mentioned it too, as far as like the Jets possibly taking last week's film and them looking specifically at that first series and how the Giants were successful in that in those first drives. Do you feel, though, because you mentioned, Brian, how they would be protecting their quarterback, but looking at, again, to the opposite of that the running game plus a mobile quarterback is kind of what is the weak link for this Cowboys defense. Do you feel that they would show some confidence, or that a guy like Wilson would have some confidence to take off with the ball and try those?
Sure. That's the thing that, to me, especially if the Cowboys are so willing to get up the field, if you're willing to create, lanes, rush lanes and stuff like that. If you're able to, the twist games and stuff like that, maybe you get two guys that get blocked together and all of a sudden there's a lane to run. Yeah, absolutely. I could see Wilson just taking off and running with the ball. The biggest fear the Cowboys have is that teams will run the football on them. That's the biggest fear, because what will happen is all that pass rush stuff that they do will not matter if teams can move the ball by just running the ball. But they could also wear you down running the football. And all of a sudden now you're not so anxious to go and rush the passer because you're thinking, okay, here comes a run. And now you're playing like gear down, and you play gear down, and all of a sudden, oh, wait a minute, they go play action on us and they hit us over the top, or they hit us with the tight end play, or they throw it to the back.
But knowing that you lost Rodgers and you're only starting week 2, do you as a team go ahead and give him that liberty to be free to run, or do you try to protect him a little bit more?
They protect him when they throw the ball. They'll protect him with putting extra guys, tight ends in the game to allow, again, by spacing to keep the rushers off him, but they'll also keep those guys in. They've kept tight ends in and kept a back in, and then just played with just 2 wide receivers running routes. So that's kind of to their game plan is they feel like the best chance they have of getting the ball out was to keep tight ends in and keep a back in, and then just try and see if they can win one-on-one on the outside. So they're going to do everything they can not to let this rush affect him. But the way that they're going to do it is they're going to run the football.
Absolutely.
That's how they're going to do it. They're going to wear you down running the ball. They're going to make you play run defense in this game for sure.
All right. Appreciate you guys joining us. Back tomorrow. We will wrap up everything, get you guys ready for Cowboys versus Jets. Till then, for Patrick Walker, Brian Broaddus, Amber Garcia, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?